Mark in the count. The swing arm now coming back as our countdown continues.
Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome to the Brick Something News. I guess I'm Brick Something, and to my that direction is Toy Sorceress from ToyHabits, who's gracing us with her toy sorcery and her toy wisdom. Hi, Toy Sorceress.
Hey, Brick. How's it going on this amazing Sunday? Just so much toy news to talk about.
Toy news, toy nerdiness, geeky stuff. Yeah, absolutely. There's just this is fun. So this is my welcome to the channel, and this is kind of basically my way to like hang out with people and geek out on some of the things that I saw. And I'm described to you, and I constantly describe to people, it's called the news, but it's like needless ephemera we saw, which is a fancy way of saying just let's talk about some dorky stuff. It doesn't have to be actual news. It could be stuff from a while back, whatever. We're just hanging out talking, and you're fresh from talking about the news. Actually, you just jumped on literally, like, I think you had a couple of minutes, and then you did your Toy Habits thing and jumped on. So I really appreciate that. And I know you're, if folks happen to be there and are here today, thank you. And you might see a little bit of overlap. And I just, hope you're down for the ride.
Absolutely.
On that note,
always so fun doing this, and thank you so much, Brick, for inviting me on your show. I know we were trying to get this done a couple of weeks now, and glad our schedules finally worked out. So it'll be a lot of fun to hang out, talk toys, and hang out with the chat.
Believe it or not, we are like real people with real lives that get in the way of this whole toy stuff. Okay. Highly Articulated is in the chat, and I'm so happy to hear that you might be going down another action figure rabbit hole with Jada Toy Street Fighter, which we'll talk about today. Speaking moistly, good to see you. Dynamo Dave 2002. Hello, Dynamo. Kenzo's Creations, who we've taken a little look at something that he shared with me this week and is now on Instagram, and I was just like, whoa! So we'll take a look at that. Thanos, thank you. Hello. Thank you again in advance for sharing the links with folks during the stream. I hope I have figured out a way to make that easy for you. Appreciate it. Nolan is here, as Nolan always is, which we love. A mainstay in the toy tubing live streaming world. Allison Troy, greetings, my fellow ephemerians. Yeah, that word.
That's a new word.
Ray Paz, what's going on? Saying hello to folks. Ostradamus, time for some quote-unquote news. Brick Something News, BS News, all that good stuff. Ted Darklaw. Darklaw, who will be having a show shortly after when we end. So definitely check that out over on the Hella Dope channel. Silver K again being commanding of you all. Please gently nudge that like, she says. Sorry to editorialize, Kayla. Thank you for coming. Hola, Neil Hunter. Hi, great to see you. Oh, we've got some Disney stuff.
We skipped a very important person a little ways up, right under Oz, which is our great friend Ken from Toy Connections is in the house.
I don't see him in my thing.
You don't see him? He's
I totally did.
Oz.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Ken.
Oh, that's okay. Had to say hi to Ken.
A week ago, last Thursday, on Thanksgiving Day in the United States of America, I got to hang out in Vancouver, British Columbia, with Ken in person, and it was super fun. He took me to some great shops, and I got to see the Toy Connections studio.
I was going to ask you some questions about that. Were you there visiting family? Were you on vacation? Like,
I was visiting family, but toy family. No, I was no, we started doing this thing started last year where we take a trip because both my wife and I have a week off and the kids have a week off, and we're like, you know what? We're gonna see family in December. Let's use this time to kind of build some memories with our kids. So we started traveling. Last year was New York. This year was Vancouver. Just kind of wherever the cheap flights are and the points will work.
It just warmed my heart to see the photograph of you with Ken together in person. Like, I thought that was so cool because like we all talk, we chat, but it's all like on IM or DM and or on these streams and stuff. But to get to hang out with somebody like in real life in person, like that's awesome that you guys got to do that. So
yeah, no, totally. And I've met and been able to hang out with Michael a couple of times. I tried whenever I can get down there, whenever we're down there and it works out. Down there being Southern California, I'd love to connect and
absolutely
geeking out in person. Let's see. Mint with Card. Hello. Thank you for joining us. Love that thumbnail. What's going on? Sorry. Distracted. Cute cult. Oh, the cute cult. Okay. Because there's some ugly cults. But what's up, cute cult? Thank you for joining us. Shout out to all the trust fund babies. No job here. Man, hook a brother up because I'm kind of tired. But hey, Derek Hoover, don't break any dishes while you listen to this. Let's see who else. Hello again, Toy Connections, because I missed you the first time and sorry about that.
A second big hello.
Yeah, a second and a third. Lucha Johnny, who was our co-host last week. If you missed that that episode, go check it out. We talked a lot of D&D, which was awesome, and a lot of high fantasy type stuff. So much good stuff out there in terms of toys. Awesome. All right, and sorry, who was the Trust Fund Babies? Was that no, that was Cute Cult. Cute Cult. Kayla, if you need a sugar baby, just making connections here on the Brick Something News. All right, folks. Let's geek out and talk some toy stuff. So yeah, again, just a little bit of logistics for folks. So the way we do things is, we've got a bunch of stuff going on over here, and all of these links are always going to be available at that link that's sort of described in the little banner down at the bottom. In addition, you'll see a QR code that'll pop up every now and then. It'll take you right to those. And that's actually true for anything that we've shared in the past. I mean, it's not, it's just a Google Doc that I do because I don't know. I like for you to hear about these things, but if there's something that you're really interested, especially in the artists, the customizers, the photographers, or any of the like indie places that I'm talking about, I'd really love for you to check them out because the small folks definitely need the attention and the eyeballs, and share those on social media and all that.
Absolutely. So, and thank you to everybody in the chat for joining. I see a lot of our crew members here. Big shout out Silver K, Joe Coleman's here. Of course, all the gang, Oz. Joe, so awesome to see you in the chat. So
what's up, Joe? Thank you. Yes. And Pains was here. Hopefully you're not the last. And no, but that's okay. Keep trying. I don't understand NFTs either. That was from his stream earlier. Go check that out. He was talking about Todd McFarlane with Allison and Chris, and it was fascinating because I think Todd is anyways, Todd is on another one. Okay, so now that we're sort of a little bit more organized, let's go ahead and talk first about the stuff that I actually call the I guess the closest to the newsy type stuff, which is the scene, the stuff we saw. So let's start in with this NECA figure in particular. So on Monday, NECA announced that Monday, 9 a.m. our time, a couple of their last Ronin figures are going up for sale. And as cool as that is, and I'm not a big turtle collector at all, but when I saw this version of Splinter, I was just like, wow, that's a really cool translation from the book. And I just sort of love that kind of like animated or illustrated style kind of mixed in 3D. But I don't know, just cool stuff. I'm a big animal, anthropomorphic, as you and many
I
people
know.
know. So whether they're turtles, whether they're rats, monkeys, chimps,
You gotta
whatever.
love a rat in a sensei outfit. Like, what is not cool about that? And Splinter is our favorite rat, so it's very cool seeing him
And
in the last Ronin style here.
absolutely. And I love the sort of like, it's always going to be fun for them to translate how these figures, right? And so that's an
Yeah.
interesting kind of like the articulation on that. It looks like there's a swivel there on his little paws.
hmm
So I
And it
am
looks
kind
like
of
he's using
curious.
his tail to balance himself. You see
Yep.
that in the
Yep.
back?
As a rat
I don't
does.
think he'd be able to stand on those thin little legs, on those
Are
feet.
you much of a turtle collector?
I am a big turtle collector, but not as much on the NECA figures. I do like the Playmates and the Playmate re-release classic ones. I've got like a lot of vintage turtles, and I'm really excited about the new TMNT Motu crossover, which I'll put a pin in it. But there's going to be some exciting news coming down the pike at ToyHabits.com about that, and some future stuff coming out. We do have it in our pockets, so keep an eye out. But I am a big turtle collector. I like the vintage cartoons. Got all the Playmate stuff. As a matter of fact, at my favorite collector shop this weekend, they had a vintage Technodrome. It was like $300, but it was so cool seeing it like in their display window.
Yeah.
So I haven't really been too much into like the last Ronin per se, and when it gets like a little bit more of that darker comic style, it's not as much my scene. I mean, he looks
Got
cool,
it.
but I love more of kind of like the classic playful,
You
version. And I
like the
have a bunch of
light
the
comic, yeah.
Ultimate figures,
Uh-huh.
right, from Super 7. Those are awesome. And it's my fault. Like Michael just ordered a crap load of them from that big sale that was on BBTS. I made him dive into turtles because he wasn't a collector before.
Well, this thing is really cool, even with all the little
Yeah.
like, that we get
Oh my gosh.
alt hands usually, but there looks like this whole separate forearm piece to get you the different alt hand positions. The tail looks really cool.
Yeah.
Oh no, it looks like there's even sort of separate hands. Ooh, wait, I'm
There's a
trying to
whole bunch,
remember
so they're
from the
all wrapped.
comic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember from the comic.
It's
Anyways.
funny because like he has a few accessories there. He's got some swords,
Mhm.
but like a ton of hands, and so maybe they're just expressive hands because he doesn't have a lot of stuff to hold. Right?
Yeah, there's definitely some expressive martial arts hands going on.
Yeah,
I'm
maybe he's
just
doing
trying
some
to
stuff.
remember what's going on with these and if there was something in the anyway, it's been a little bit. There's all the hands and hey, I just, like if you're a
There's
turtle
lots of
fan, you're being well fed. Like there's different variations of turtles all the time at once, right? Yeah, we're kind of used.
Yes.
If you're a Turtles fan, you're kind of used to the franchise going on, seemingly like it's this evergreen thing that changes every now and
Yeah.
then. But we're kind of in this point where like it can all be available in plastic
Yep.
form at one time, whether it's the
Yeah.
movie stuff, the NECA stuff, multiple lines of NECA stuff, the Playmate stuff from Super 7. It's
Yep.
and then what are the other ones like? Best action, is that right? It
Can
just
we
seems
show
like there's
Neil's comment on the screen for a second?
yeah.
And Neil, the only thing I can say is I'm winking at you. Keep a pin in that because you never know. That's all I can
awesome.
tell you right now. But
Yeah, and so we'll get to the end where we'll definitely talk about your stuff. But for those of you who might be unfamiliar, toyhabits.com, you can find that in the description. And again, we'll share it again later. The amazing website that Toy Sorceress runs, as well as the Toy Habits channel with Michael and the
Michael's an
podcast,
awesome partner. Big
where
shout out to Michael.
and so there's a lot of wink, hints, because you all get these like amazing leaks and bits of information, and I know sometimes that can maybe get you into trouble, but
Yeah, we have to be careful.
yeah, but it's so great because you all have such great access to information, it seems, and you're always introducing me to different channels and sources too,
and
right?
What I love about not to say like our channel is better than other channels or our news information, but not only
Well, yours is
do
real
we give
news.
you guys the news. And, Michael is really great at this too. And I think we kind of feed off each other and teach each other stuff, but we cover the news story, but then we give you a background about it. We give you character history. We show you maybe examples of customs or, figures that have come in the past and maybe how we got somewhere. So I think we try and give you more of a holistic approach when we break news about stuff, because we want you to understand those awesome characters that are being released, announced, leaked, etc. So I think, we try and go the extra mile in that sense. And Michael does an amazing job. So big shout out to him. He's been working his butt off this weekend. But
100%.
I think
you all know
like
your stuff.
The difference with our channel and our website a little bit, because we try and give you more than just a news story.
Yeah, you guys totally know your stuff. And so in addition to the news, like I was just telling you before this, and this is perfect because we're just hanging out. But before this, you all did your weekly stream, and it's I was telling you before we started, it's totally my favorite sort of type of thing that you all do on the channel, where if there's a new Masterverse in particular, because that's kind of my Motu line. New Masterverse wave, you do this thing where you kind of like share the list, and then you're showing us visuals of like whether they're old classics versions or customs, and kind of speculating on what they might be like. And that stuff is totally fun, but it's always sort of grounded in this, like this is a thing that's coming, and you all have this background, and then you'll do the more in-depth stuff. It's great.
Absolutely, because it's like one thing to get a name and information that so and so is coming to a line. But we feel like it's important to help all the collecting community visualize what the thing might look like, and a little bit about the character, because sometimes it's characters that are a little bit more deep cut. You don't know a lot about them. So then we want to tell you, well, this is like where they originated from and how they tie into the story. But yes, wink, wink, heard loud and clear. Neil, keep your eyes peeled this coming week.
Yeah.
Right. It's already, put it this way, I've got something in the can that's Motu related, TMNT related that we'll get out.
Man, you are constantly on it, and that's great in a way that I can't. So that's why we BS with the news. So again, just one figure. Again, there's multiple figures that are available. If you want to know about the mall and want actual information, go to toyhabits.com. All right, moving on. And yes, if you weren't clear, folks, people asking, this is from the last Ronin. I just love the character design. I love the more scraggly, like, world weary Splinter. And Highly Articulated pointed out that he thinks that it's more about the sleeves, the torn sleeves, with the extra arms, which is cool.
And his big puffy pants.
You all talked a lot about this, and I know you had yourself a little bit of a Nostradamus, not to be mixed with Ostradamus moment, where you predicted.
I did.
You had a strong feeling. Yeah, why don't you tell folks about that?
I absolutely did, because as soon as I saw the news about, there was two things, and I didn't mention this other thing on our show. As soon as I saw the Instagram post that big news was coming from Super 7, and even before this, I was getting some inklings. Earlier in the week, I don't know if anybody noticed, but Hasbro Pulse listed that latest wave of G.I. Joe reaction figures from Super 7 on their website.
Yeah.
Right? So I was like, there's a little bit of, there's always been partnership because Super 7's doing G.I. Joe, but something changed. Something changed in that moment, because I was like, now they're listing actual Super 7 products on their website. And as soon as I saw,
can I pause you there? Hate to do this, but just on that note, a little bit ago in the last Hasbro Pulse, like sort of big stream, I forget what event that was. They also sort of paused to show us some Super 7 figures, right?
And Brian was there. Do you remember? He was at was that San Diego Comic-Con? He was over hanging out like at the panel with Emily and Lenny.
So it was like, oh, this is right back then there was a little bit of shift. Yeah. And then as you pointed out, this was a big thing for them to kind of stop and show some of those figures. So then that led you to
so the night before this announcement, Michael was trying to prep some information, and he says to me, what do you think this announcement's going to be? Do you think they're just rejigging the mothership tiers to see if they can shake it loose, because it's been kind of flatlining the last few weeks? And I said, no, I don't think that's it. I think that O-Ring has been kind of on hold for the longest time. Super 7 already tipped their hand, showing us these O-Ring troopers that were going to come with the mothership. And I'm like, it would absolutely make sense for them to take over the license, but not step on Hasbro's toes in case they still want to do some Transformer crossovers with classic
Sure.
figures that we got before. So
Mhm.
my prediction was that they were going to take over O-Ring, but they were going to do the stuff that hasn't been produced yet. So from
Yes.
Sunbow, from the comic series, from the
Yep.
DIC cartoon as well. And then
Yep.
lo and behold, what does Brian Flynn announce the next day? That very exact thing. And
Yep.
and with that, we had a little bit of intel, which we're not going to share yet, on
Okay.
something else Super 7 is working on, and which made my suspicions even that much more, pinpointed in how I figured this out.
Gotcha. So
That
you've been
will be
hearing a
more to
bunch of
come.
little things that kind of, and you're
Well,
putting it together with all those little clues that
mhm.
you said. You're like,
Yep,
this is where we're going. And I wondered
absolutely.
too, because the second that when they made that announcement, these
Mhm.
um originally when they're kind of like
Yep.
offered the
Yep.
tier for not these, but the O-ring ones that they were offering,
Mhm.
right? It's like,
Yeah.
because it was a little weird. They announced this 3.75 vehicle for
Yep.
reaction.
Yep.
And I wasn't sure if like, are they like treading carefully? Like I was wondering why they wouldn't just, a lot of people were wondering, why don't they just throw a bunch of old O-rings from
Mhm.
the old vintage stuff in this to kind of help sell it? And that'll totally get people. And in my brain, I was like, well, maybe they can't. Like maybe there's some legal
Yeah.
issues because they
Yeah.
really don't want you to think that you can just cross these things. But turns out it was the other way. I don't know what needed to happen behind the scenes if they hadn't made a decision yet.
Mhm.
But part of me initially was just like,
And
well,
as you can see,
mhm,
yeah. Like,
yeah,
Super 7's doing the stuff in reaction that hasn't been done before. So
yep,
obviously the mothership was never a vehicle, it was never built. And this was
yep,
such a focal point of, the opening scene of the cartoon. And I think it's in season
Cobra,
2 that,
Cobra.
yeah,
Mhm,
it's like amazing. And how could you
yeah,
not make a vehicle out of this? But that's probably part of the deal. Hasbro
yeah.
never made a mothership, and they're like, okay, we won't take this on, but Super 7, you're awesome at it. Go for it. Right?
Yeah, and I'm really happy that that's the case because as you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, like stuff from the Sunbow stuff, great. Like
Mm-hmm.
that was a problem for a lot of
Yeah.
people, not so much me because I loved my
Mhm.
old vintage figures and I
Yeah.
loved watching the show. So I didn't necessarily like, I actually was
Mm-hmm.
more of a fan of the toys than I was the cartoon. But
Yeah.
I know there are some really hardcore like fans of the cartoons. So the fact that you're getting both the Sunbow and the Deke,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of different things that happen there, including, as we know, sorry, I joke all the time about it, but Cold Slither. We can maybe get more articulated Cold Slither figures than the reaction ones.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but then, I'm thinking to me, what excites me is the Marvel comics,
Yeah.
right? I don't think,
So many
I mean,
characters. Right?
yeah, I don't know what my dream has always been to have. Well, I think they did eventually do them, but I would love to see the October Guard again. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
given the way the world is right now, if that's a possibility.
Yeah.
But there were so many things that were happening in those comics that
Yeah.
would be cool. And again, I hope it's more than just variants of characters,
Oh,
although I could totally see them do that. But like just some of the other things that we never got in the cartoon would be pretty cool.
they have a huge well of vast information that they could dig out, and Super 7's really great at
Yeah.
kind of finding those special moments
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the media, the old school media that were never made into figures, et cetera, et cetera. So
Yep. Yep.
that's what what they can be diving into. And the great thing is, you'd think these O-ring figures, the re-release ones, were quite expensive. They had the 2 packs for Hasbro stuff at the time. But at
Mhm.
least Super 7 said that they are going to keep hopefully that $20 price point for their O-ring figures, which is the same price you pay for the reaction. Now, for
Yeah.
reaction figures, I do collect them, but I've been kind of more picky about them lately because they're expensive. They're really cute and they've got that Kenner style, so really nice nostalgia there. But do I wish they could move around like this amazing new Zartown we had, and brand new articulation,
Yes.
new O-ring. He's like nice and tight. He works
Mhm.
well. Yes, of course I wish that. And now hearing that Super 7 is going to get to do that, and they're going to keep the $20 price point on these, is incredible. So I'm so excited, and I actually love the Sunbow cartoon. So I can't wait to see, those bright, really cool colors and that aesthetic in an O-ring figure, because that's what I love about the reaction figures, and that's why I collect them.
Yeah, and I feel like in
It's
that
gonna be,
I feel like in that
yeah.
form factor, the smaller heads would do
Mhm.
really well for the level of detail that was somewhere
Absolutely.
more pulled back details. And it's
Mhm.
true. Adam's saying
Yeah.
Super 7 tends to lean more heavily into the cartoons with G.I. Joe.
Mhm.
Yep. And so, but I still would love to see, they specifically name checked Marvel Comics. So we will see. Ray Paz being hopeful. I hope this kills the hate for classified from the O-ring and 3.75 collectors. Dare to dream, my friend. I love your positivity.
Yeah.
But who knows? And I agree with this. And I do
Mhm.
actually wonder, Thanos says they should have announced all this before the mothership crowdfund. Yeah, I wonder
Yeah.
what the rush was to crowdfund, or if this was sort of like,
I don't know.
who knows, for all we know, the crowdfund helped maybe spur this conversation. So maybe it wasn't even
Mhm.
in so we don't know.
We
But I
don't know.
agree that in an alternate universe, the rollout would have been, hey, O-ring's coming. Oh, by the way, missing something from your collection. Check this out.
Mhm.
Um,
Absolutely.
but on that note, let's actually
Mhm.
talk about, well, there was this too. Pixel Dan helped break
Yep.
that.
Mhm.
But there's this.
Amazing interview. Lots of fun to always watch
Yes.
the two of them talk toys, talk GI Joe.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about this.
Mhm.
Yeah, as Adam points out, like this is pretty low, even
Yeah.
given some of the other Super 7
Yeah.
crowd funds. We
Mhm.
can be optimistic, but who knows? And there's always sort of that last,
Yeah.
as we get to the end, there's that hit. We've got about 8 days. Yeah, 8 days.
Mhm.
It's a week from tomorrow.
Yeah.
Midnight. So who knows? It is now up to 1,500. That wasn't the case just like last week, right?
Yeah.
So it's gone up, and maybe.
Just about maybe 50 or so, not a ton.
Oh, really? Was it already
Yeah.
in the thousands? I honestly
It was
wasn't
in the
paying close attention.
1400 and
Oh,
change. Yeah.
well then, I take it back. So then
But
it's
no,
really
no,
truly
it's
is a slip up.
okay. But
Yeah.
my theory is, and I haven't backed this yet, just because I've had so many expenses with the new house. But I think it's more of a matter of cost, because
Yeah.
this playset is incredible, and when you watch that 3D rendered video fly through
Yes.
of the whole
Uh-huh.
thing and all the
Mhm.
amazing stuff that it
Yep.
has inside it, like had this
Yep.
been priced at $295, would have been a no-brainer for me, and I would have
Mhm.
been like, yeah, I'm all in. But once you get to $500 plus shipping and tax, real like at $600 for
Yep.
this, which is close to like what we paid, $50 less for an amazing cat slayer.
Right.
So it comes down to cost, and I'm sure there was a ton of tooling and all these little intricate parts that made the price of this for Super 7, rise so high. I'm sure they're not just charging that because they want to make a fortune. I'm sure they're covering their costs and then making whatever amount they needed to just
Well,
kind of
sure.
pay the bills. But unfortunately, I think it's the price tag that's holding this down, because it's a very exciting playset.
I agree with you. I think definitely the price is keeping people back. If it was
Mhm.
somehow some weird miscalculation of trying to like charge as much as they can to make money, it may bite them, like a
And,
snake.
and I,
Because it might not
yeah.
fund. So we'll see.
And
But
I
to
want
keep
to,
it
I want to
positive, there is more backers than the Jurassic Park gates. So yes.
Yes, there are. But I wanted to
Yeah.
share a little bit of information that I don't think anybody is aware of in terms of data on the interest for the mothership.
Ah.
Because this thing was quietly announced at SDCC. It wasn't really talked about. But when info leaked on it and some more photos came out, we did an article on the mothership. I don't think anyone was really covering it that much, but and looking at the data of how many views we get in a day on the
Hmm.
site, we
Oh, okay.
had over 10,000 views of that article the day we posted it, which is incredible numbers, meaning people were super excited about it. But that was before they knew the price point and all the details, etc. But people were Googling it, they were looking it up, they were like, oh my gosh, there's going to be a mothership playset. So the excitement
Yeah.
was there.
Yeah. Yes.
Just looking at the numbers in terms of how many people were were looking it up and reading the articles on it. But when it came down to it, they were only able to capture right now a small portion of those people because the price tag is a bit high. And I think that's the biggest challenge for this crowdfund right now.
Yeah, there's definitely, as I sort of floated some of the
Mm-hmm.
folks in the chat earlier,
Mm-hmm.
definitely price is an issue.
Yeah.
Well, fingers
Yeah.
crossed. We'll see how that goes. And I don't know there are no hard and fast rules. I know some people have some concerns about the idea of sort of integrity
Mm-hmm.
of a company if they sort of put something up, it fails, and then try and still sell it again later. But there's no hard and fast rules. Like maybe, if this doesn't work, they try again. Just like they did the early bird offering for the O-ring Vipers, and they said, well, that we didn't hit that. Guess what?
Yeah.
Those are now built into the offering. So you really can
Yeah.
do whatever you want ultimately, especially if it's going to help entice people.
Yeah.
And I agree with these last two from Speaking Moistly and from
Mm-hmm.
Pains that
Absolutely.
they were also competing with a massive crowdfund that had just ended a little bit before that.
And what month is it right now, Brick?
It's that month where people spend a lot of money on themselves and other people, holiday stuff. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
On Mythic Legions.
And they're focusing on things they can get in their hand right now to put under the Christmas tree and wrap up and physically have. So pre-orders go down during December. You can see a lot of new stuff there hasn't really been new characters and figures like Joe's and other stuff pop up for pre-order in December. There's a reason for that. Because people are focusing on what can I get in my hand to give as a holiday gift. And so money needs to be put aside for that. And something that's not going to come out for, another year, because this is coming out fall 2024.
Right.
You don't have that, $500 to spend on it right now. So that's kind of the challenge for it. And it's unfortunate also that this couldn't be something that you could pre-order now and pay for it when it ships, because it's a crowdfund. So they need those dollars, they need the committed money to actually be able to produce it. Had it been something that we could just pre-order, I probably would have bought it and then paid for it in the fall when it came in my hands. Right. Especially knowing the rest of their O-ring line is going to be hitting store shelves in fall of 2024. And then this would be an awesome playset to go with those new figures.
Right. Well, listen, speaking of awesome new figures, let's actually keep talking Joe's, but let's talk about something that's going on over on Toy Habits. You got some news you want to share with the Brick Something audience a little bit about what's going on here?
Absolutely. So we did get some leaks that both the Snowcat with Frostbite and the Thunder Machine with Thrasher are coming to the classified line, which is so cool. And I think, as I mentioned to Michael on our previous stream, once we got that Vamp announced, we've kind of crossed the Rubicon of, hey, we're only giving you little vehicles like the Ram Cycle repainted 20 times. We're now getting to the point where the line is successful enough that Hasbro doesn't have to gamble on being able to produce large vehicles for us. So these two coming out for the line is awesome. And thanks to Chaz, the guru, also as well, which gave us some information here. Breaking this news. This is really great. I love the Snowcat. It's one of my favorite vintage Joe vehicles. And I don't know, something about that little cat logo. And I made the joke on our last hour. He's just like, the little blue cat logo on there. I love the Snow Joes. So that's a really cool vehicle. And then the Thunder Machine, we just got
that's one of my favorites.
Crossover, which is awesome. And
Yep.
all these dreadnoughts that are now hitting, we got a whole slew of dreadnoughts that came out. We got torches coming up to know that Thrasher is going to be included, and you just have all your dreadnoughts hanging off the side of that thing. How cool is that? I mean,
and these are both customs that you've got, just to clarify with folks. They sort of like pull customs just for conceptual reasons, but
absolutely.
But yeah, the fact that vehicles, rumors of vehicles are out there is pretty exciting. We know
this is coming from a really good source that that's been fairly spot on with stuff. So we're pretty confident on it.
So check out that. Again, those links will be up shortly after this live stream. but always fun to know. Again, the classified vehicles, like for a while, I was like, oh, they never make vehicles in this scale, and like think about how many vehicles we've gotten so far, or at
We were
least
getting the ferret.
still waiting for the
ferret's
hiss to
coming out.
shift. Yes.
Yep.
So it's sort of like I don't know. It's interesting. I'm not a classified collector. I was a huge vintage line collector back as kids. And so part of me was like, oh, I'm good. Plus, my brother, who is who we share that vintage collection with, he's super into this. So I'm kind of like, cool. I'm just gonna come to your house and take a look at your toys.
I know. I mean, the latest figures we've been getting, like, you got Duke here, or Hawk, sorry, General Hawk, and Shockwave. Like, these look really classic. Like, this is like ARH 1980s in the 6-inch scale. Like, they're doing
it's almost like this is the Ultra HD version, though, because you can actually see all the details that were in my brain as a kid.
Absolutely. Like, look at his like bomber jacket. Like, the detail on that it's incredible. And like, they're capturing like the classic look of these figures, but in 7-inch scale. Sorry. So they're just doing a great job, and that's why I love these now. Like, when the classified line first came out, they were very, kind of different and futuristic, and I think they course corrected and dialed in, and now they're hitting that spot of nostalgia that we're all looking for in the highly articulated, super detailed figures that they are. So they're doing great. And yeah, these customizers just did an incredible job at creating, these vehicles at this scale. And Michael knows a lot more about the actual customizers that worked on these, but just
and I'll put
to get
the links to their IGs. So it's like Yojo, ARH, and I don't know about this one, but like this was one of my favorites as a kid because I was a big dystopian, post-apocalyptic, Mad Max, Road Warrior kid. So this was perfect. Like, this character was never actually, like, in my brain, it wasn't a Cobra G.I. Joe thing. It was like a wasteland dystopian kind of toy. So I'm excited to see what that thing looks like.
They're doing a great job. Yep. And if you go to Yojo ARH, he's got some incredible customs. I know that actual Snowcat vehicle was done by someone else. I just can't pull it up right now, but he did use his Frostbite figure with that, and there was a collaboration with a few very talented customizers that do some incredible work. I know, and it looks so cool. So.
Cool. We will take a look at that as events unfold. Let's go ahead and move. Oh, I just wanted to, since we were sort of on the Super 7 tip, we don't got to spend too much on this, but like, I will just say I haven't seen the movie yet. Was supposed to see it yesterday. Some work stuff came up, really frustrated. Me and the kids were all ready to go, and I had to bail on them because stupid work. But the movie's doing well. And to capitalize on it, in comes Super 7 with their Toho license, and they're ready to go. And the sculpt on this thing is fantastic, at least in these renders, right? But man, this is like, I haven't been this excited about a version, like a new version of Godzilla. I like the one that's in the movies right now, in the sort of US movies, is cool, but this one was just like, ooh. And the way you sort of see the different coloration, I hope that actually translates to the actual thing. It's up for pre-order right now, up until January 7th. If you've been paying attention to Super 7 and their pre-orders, if you want this, you might consider doing it. The Godzilla fans are pretty hardcore, and there's still a little bit of the anger and frustration when they don't get exactly what they want. I've witnessed a little bit of the frustration between like Haya versions and Bandai stuff. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of like really loyal Godzilla collectors. And so I'm sure this will hit the minimum they need. But anyway, that's there. And that's all we really need to say about that. Let's go ahead and move on, because time is a ticking. Do you do much with current modern Four Horsemen toys, like Mythic Legions?
I don't, because the problem was, I think I wasn't as following it as much, and so when I saw the cool, amazing figures that they've been doing from Mythic Legions, it was already past like a lot of the line coming in, and so now trying to go back and get some of those cooler, first release figures are super expensive, and that's kind of kept me out
Yes.
of diving into
Stay
the line.
away.
So I just
Stay
said,
away.
I guess I'll keep that to the side for that
Yeah.
reason. Yeah.
No, it totally makes sense, especially if you have completist tendencies. I would just say definitely stay away, and don't, if you're interested in this line, like I don't mean to say this flippantly, like just try one out. And I know that I'm not trying to do that like some
Mhm.
weird pusher, but
Oh,
they're
no.
fun to play with. It'll really kind of
Yeah.
changed my outlook on sort of like what's possible with action figures in 2023. The level of sort of detail and
Mhm.
sculpt, and just sort of like
Oh, they're
appreciating them as
incredible.
objects,
Yeah.
man. They are absolutely wonderful, wonderful toys.
Oh,
Um,
I have no doubt that they're incredible toys.
yes.
And I really like, like the knights and stuff like that, but those are
Yep.
so expensive that I just like, I'm like, like I just
Yep.
can't like,
Yeah.
buy
And
them.
we don't
But
have to collect everything, right? We can,
oh
especially the
no,
internet folks,
maybe
window
if the
shop.
opportunity strikes with a new one that's just like the retail price, maybe I can start picking
Yeah.
up a couple. But yeah.
Well, there was an announcement. I don't know how familiar you are with the lines in general, but they have Mythic Legions, which was their thing. Then they started doing
Mhm.
this line called Figure Obscura that was sort of
Mhm.
these,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
yep, quick, like initially it
Yep.
started a little bit seasonal. They did a
Uh-huh.
Krampus for the holidays once, and then they
Yep.
later
I saw
followed up with a
the
Father Christmas, and then
Christmas,
they
and
kind
then
of,
they did the Headless Horseman,
yeah, they
right?
swerved, and with a Halloween release, Headless
Yep,
Horseman.
that was very cool.
Then they really swerved with a Sun Wukong Monkey King, which like, oh, they're doing
Mhm.
literature stuff. And then they went to Poe with the Mask of the Red Death. And so
Mhm.
this thing hasn't been around that long, and that we thought, oh, maybe once a year we'll get a figure. But like now
Yep.
we have multiple just in this year. That
Yeah.
said, they teased this last week, and they said, hey, this
Mhm.
Saturday, December 2nd, they
Yeah.
showed us this picture. A lot of people were like, what's it? It's holidays. And a lot of people actually
Mhm.
did guess correctly, because
Yep.
yesterday they revealed
Mhm.
their Marley
Yeah.
figure from A Christmas Carol from Dickens,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the ghost of Jacob Marley. And the sculpt on this is gorgeous. It's based largely on existing the basic body, and some parts.
Mhm.
However, there are new parts in this so it's that kind of thing that excites a lot of the Mythic Legions set,
Yeah.
because of the pop and swap nature of the line. It's kind of like when you
Mhm.
get like Motu Origins parts, or that those
Yeah.
WWE, and you can pop out and exchange the parts. Um,
Yeah.
so, so a lot of us
Wow.
look at these and we're like, I love that figure. And a lot of us also go, I love those parts, so I can make other
Mhm.
figures, which is where it
Yeah.
gets really dangerous. But this thing is fantastic. I love the coloration. It's a ghost. I don't know if you can see there. It's got like this cool ombre on the coat, so that the
Mhm.
bottom of it's really translucent and up to
Yeah.
the more solid blue. And then there's the boots that also transition
Mhm.
from solid to clear. It's that
Yeah.
total, like their version, the Four
Like it's
Horsemen's
floating like
version.
a ghost.
Yeah,
Yep.
beautiful photos by 1/6 Shooter
Mhm.
Trevor. Um, the accessories on this is all new to this figure. The chains and this thing around his body, that coat
Mhm.
is new. People are like, ooh, potentially like pirates later, some other characters. That's a new
There you go.
cravat, I believe is what it's called. That thing around his neck. Yeah, I think that is what it's called.
Mhm.
And then of course this creepy, twisted, right? We go from here to this like Ghostbusters, almost
Oh
like
my gosh,
twisted mouth.
totally, right?
Yeah.
Totally.
Just
That's
again,
awesome.
great photos. It's
Mhm.
I don't believe it's sold out. I haven't checked. They did 2 drops. They did one at 6 a.m. our time, then again at 4 p.m. our time, 4 or 5 p.m. I forget. The first drop eventually sold out, and then the second drop, the figure I believe is still available. I haven't checked, and I'm not going to mess with it, so I don't mess up the
Yeah.
stream. Um, but these haven't been hard to get later, so there's no real need for folks to like jump
Rush
and
to order.
rush.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you're in a place where the Four Horsemen will show up at a convention, because they'll have these available, and they'll generally be available at the
Mhm.
same price, and you wouldn't have
Yeah.
to pay shipping or anything. So
That's awesome.
um, I will sadly, but in a way proudly say that I resisted this release. I've jumped on every single figure Obscura when it showed up on their Saturday drops. But I'm like Bacon McShig, just sort of cherry picking at this point, and I can't afford everything because I say that because you were talking about $500 in the holidays. I've got a $550 all-in that I'm staring down for their latest line for the Rising Suns wave, which they showed last month. Those pre-sales close January 14th. So like literally this figure, I added it up for the shipping and tax here to California. And this figure with all that will actually pay for the shipping and tax for that all. So
oh man,
that's my weird.
I know. I know. It's like with the holidays, and then we just forked out a fortune for SDCC tickets because they went on sale. Was that Thanksgiving weekend? So
Oz confirms it is still available at storehorseman.com. That face with the big mouth is actually just definitely very One Piece. Yeah, a lot of cool accessories. It's a great figure, especially if you're into Dickens. Yearly here, we have the Dickens Fair, and I know these folks are going to be all over it. So, yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and move on. Oh no, actually, there's the packaging. Nate Barch, right, who is now a member of the Four Horsemen Studio officially as their artist, did all the packaging, and that's the other beautiful part about this line. It gets these real prestige sort of packaging, that this wraparound piece that's magnetic, that is always that you can use as a backdrop or display, or just like a cool piece of art. They also did they always do merch. There's a cup. There's a what are those pins? Enamel pins, glow in the dark. Shirts. So you could have done an all in and got all this stuff too. So anyway, cool stuff. Let's move on. I know I showed this to you earlier, and you were like, "Yeah."
I was so stoked when I saw this display. Oh my god!
Same.
I am a huge Street Fighter fan because I back in the 80s when this thing came out, I remember being at a New Year's Eve party at my friend's house playing their Super Nintendo, and I was like, "What is this game? It is so cool!" And we ended up playing it, till midnight and beyond. And that was I was hooked since then. And to see these in this incredible plastic form that really look like their characters from the video game is incredible. And I do have the arcade 1-up machine as well. So just love seeing
That's
these
awesome.
in action through the form.
And so much better, in my opinion.
Any of these? What was that?
Yeah, I do. Sorry. As far as the figures go, I have Fei Long and Chun-Li, and I will tell you right now, that's a big deal for me because all my stuff generally is in this sort of 6.5, 7-inch Masterverse, the occasional McFarlane, Mythic. So for me to go that small, because they're smaller than even 112, they're slightly under there. They're more like true 112. They line up really well with imports. But they're so good that I had to grab at least. I told myself, oh, just Fei Long, and then Chun-Li came out. I was like, oh, okay, I think I need a Chun-Li.
I do not get Ryu.
Yeah,
just my favorite right there. I have that figure, and he is incredible. And I was pretty much all in there. This line is awesome.
Real quick, shout out to Toy Migos and Cheney here, who is interviewing June from Jada. Toy Migos are dope, and they have just built up a relationship with June and done a lot of the reveals. And it was a lot of their sort of enthusiasm for the line that got me really interested to check them out. And once you get these in hand and you move them around, for my money, at retail, these are the best moving figures, and really great sculpt and deco and all that. But just the way they're engineered to move and do the posing that you need to capture that sort of martial arts, Street Fighter stuff. I mean, take a look at these. They hit those poses so well. They come with really cool effects pieces. All of these characters, the first 4, were all kind of revealed at SDCC already, and we knew that Chun-Li was coming. But the big deal here, and same with Blanca, I want to say that that's true. Maybe not. But these figures here were definitely revealed before. Yoga, fire. But these, and maybe it was Blanca and Sagat that are new, and Vega. I don't remember seeing Vega, but those are all new, at least to
Blanca
me.
is totally new. I think
Okay.
Sagat is new.
So it's Blanca and Sagat that were the new ones.
I saw Vega.
Yeah.
Guile is awesome. I think they did reveal him before.
Yeah, at SCCC.
But to see like this full line, it's so amazing. I was just blown away. And they just, the proportions of each of the figures look so good and so true to like, their video game form. Like look at Guile's hair, and like Blanca is like awesome. I have
with the comb.
I have the figures by, I'm trying to think who it was, and it was kind of the 5.5-inch versions from like Savage World of Blanca and Ryu, which is, I mean, that was like kind of the only figure I can get at the time.
Savage World, they were like the Motu looking ones. Oh yeah, I think that was Funko, I want to say.
You're right. It was Funko.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was because I was scared to move them because the Funko Thundercats that I got, my Panthro broke his leg instantaneously. Yep. And I wanted to share just real quick, just on my screen for a second, that these photos of Ryu that I had taken from the figure, just the incredible poses that you can get from these. If you mind for just a second.
Yeah, no problem. Is it sharing or?
Sorry, I'm trying to. I gotta put this in a separate window real quick, and then I will.
But there are a couple people while you're doing that. There are a couple people. Yeah, while you're doing that, there are folks who are like pointing out, yeah, I wish the head sculpts were a little bit better, and I see that they definitely get a little soft, like you can see it in the Guile. It's a little tricky because it's, for me at least, because it's like you go from the video game to this. But I totally I get it, especially when you see some of the like the Storm collectibles stuff that are bigger and you can get a lot more of that detail. I think they could also get some of that detail and they can keep working on it, but I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, they could. And at this price point, I mean, they're great, but like, here is Ryu on the flight stand, and just, the incredible poses that you can get with him. And, the detail that his pant legs are not like one piece, like his foot's coming out of there. So you get, kind of like the material of it and the texture,
the sense that he's wearing actual pants. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it's actual fabric, like down to that kind of detail. It's just incredible. And the posability of these figures, their articulation is great, and their price point is just on the spot. And getting these really cool
$25.
Yeah, $25. I mean, you can't beat it. Jada Toys has been totally killing it. So I am stoked that they're coming out with these. Like just to see, so far to date, they're going to be the best iteration of Street Fighter characters that I've seen done in plastic. Are they perfect? Maybe not, but they're pretty damn good, and they're really cool. And the fact that they're building out like a complete line is so much fun, right?
Yep.
and
they were saying in this interview that Blanca is, he's definitely in his crouched pose like he is in the game a lot, but he stands about the same size as Sagat. So he's a big figure, as he should be. So definitely check out that Toy Migos coverage, and there's just some other good shots. I think this was Toy News Eye. Yeah, Toy News Eye kind of just has a different shot of him, but anyway, there's some great stuff going on over there, and I think we should definitely move on because I'm looking at time. Creative Beast Studios. Were you at all checking out this Kickstarter that closed last month for Cyberzoic? Which is kind of like their. Everyone says, this is totally what is it? Dino Riders.
Yeah, Dino Riders. Yeah. No, I haven't. Some of those other what's the other like dinosaurs that are like more Motu related and they have a similar name? Those were kind of cool, kind of the brightly colored ones. Those Cyberzoic warriors.
Cyberzoic warriors.
A little different. These are more kind of realistic dinos. I'm not a big dinosaur collector per se. I don't collect Jurassic Park So
Sure,
these
sure.
have not been on my radar.
Well, I definitely have been following these, especially because they have this
Mhm.
dragon. It's a whole thing. But towards the end
Yes.
of that campaign, this one on the left here, this what is it called? A Carnotaurus, I think is what it's
Mhm.
called. They revealed that, and that's the sort of like the antagonist, the villains ride,
Yeah.
the Fire Clan, and that was this one right here, the Carnotaurus. But they didn't really reveal who its rider looked like. And so
Mm.
I want to say last week, 2 days ago, they just finished the prototype. And last week they started
Wow.
showing the work in progress. So
Oh
this is
my
Creative
gosh.
Beast Studio.
That's awesome.
So it's more sort of alien Dybbuk, I think, which
Mhm.
is, I want to say comes out of like, anyway, I don't totally, but it was like not a cult, but anyway, whatever. Dybbuk, it's yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway, it's this alien creature, dragon type
I mean, the
dude
sculpt
who
looks
will ride his
incredible,
thing.
you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
their designs are cool. These run a little bit smaller. I was just excited to see this because I know that there are folks who, unlike me, are just like, "Ooh, cool dragon. I need that." Other folks are kind of,
Yeah.
"Well, what's the story and what's the conflict and how does this work out? What's this
Yeah.
world?" And they're building it out for sure. So I think it's really cool. I'm excited to have like new lines out
Mhm.
there, and I'm not into the figure scale because they do run small, but
Well,
I
yeah.
love this. Like I love that the dinosaurs will actually have riders and there'll be
Yeah. Yeah.
characters and a little bit of a conflict. So anyway, cool
Yeah.
stuff.
That's very
I
cool.
know other folks are yeah. Adam's like, it's not even the dinosaurs for him, it's the world. I know he's one of those who are just like super super into this. Oh, and
Yeah.
I'm corrected. Tech Clan are the antagonists, but I do hear that the Fire Clan are villainous. It says here,
Mhm.
look at their painted Dragon Man villain from the Fire Clan.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
um
I'm into like the brightly colored dragons. Let's say, Legends of
yep.
Dragonor, because they're motu related, and
Oh, those
you
are
can
so
turn them
cool.
into
Yep.
riding dragon or standing
Yep.
warrior. So those are really cool.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, these have incredible sculpts, and I just don't collect dinosaurs, but I think they're doing an amazing job on them. I mean,
Fair
and
enough.
very talented
Absolutely.
people. Very,
They
very talented.
are fantastic. David Silva
Mhm.
is doing a lot of the work himself, but works with
Nice.
others. And I think he's worked with NECA before. Anyway, super talented guy doing his own thing. Started with realistic dinosaurs and now moved into the fantasy of it all. With that said, oops, I should probably say, hey, this is a new section in focus where we look a little bit at some toy photography. And I only
Mhm.
really, I think I've got two photographers to look at today. One who was a
Mhm.
co-host once here on the Brick Something News, Machu. And I just saw this photo and was totally intrigued by how he's taken this figure and kind of figure a
Mhm.
way to, yeah, I just think it looks fantastic in the setting. Like
Yeah.
I love it. This is like how a very modern way of playing with your toys, right? Like
Yeah.
doing these full-on photos. And this is part of I should say a collaborative series that photographers are
Mhm.
doing across social
That's
media
incredible
called
photography.
Symbiote
Yeah.
Sundays. But this is Machu's work, Machu
Wow.
Toy. And he
It's incredibly
actually,
talented.
yeah, right? Just
Yeah.
like this totally, I think this kind of stuff, what toy photographers are doing really sort of shows where the hobbies
Mhm.
come and the
Yeah.
sort of state of the art, because
Yeah.
we're just getting like really, really cool. These things are so detailed and pretty posable to the point where you
Yeah.
can like recreate these really great looking scenes.
With incredible
Um,
scenes and the lighting and just how the backgrounds that they use. It's amazing.
Here's the behind the scenes.
Oh,
You can see the setup and all the work that goes into
mhm.
this stuff. Machu also has a show behind two sentinels with Jay Shot. Multi-talented
Mm.
dude for sure. Just like
Mhm.
so much work
Incredible.
goes into this stuff. And here's some of his other work, but wanted to share that shot because it's amazing.
Yeah.
Moving on. The other sort of toy photography thing I wanted to feature today on In Focus
That's really
is
cool.
this shot of Bowser's Castle, right?
Uh-huh.
I am a sucker for the sort of selective
Mhm.
focus, right? So like, oh, we're totally looking
Mm.
at Bowser chasing the brothers and then
Mhm.
the other way
Oh,
around.
yeah.
I'm so
That's
cool,
really
right? These
cool.
are Yeah, these are the movie figures, right? You get them.
Yeah, those are the Mario movie figures. I do have that Mario and Luigi.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
But people are just doing such cool things with them. And I want
Amazing,
to,
amazing photography.
yeah. So if you're not checking out a lot of photography, please do. There's just so much cool stuff out there and really talented people
Yeah.
in the community doing some amazing things, including our own
Mhm.
Thanos, who is helping with the links as usual.
That's awesome.
So that's in focus. Check out your local toy photographer. What's next? I think it's eye candy. I want to say, yeah, eye candy. So let's look at some art. You're an architect by trade, is that right?
I am.
Are you?
Yes.
Did you get into like drawing and stuff too as part of your nerdery, or
I
yeah?
did. Actually, that's what started me into architecture when I was in,
Ah,
junior high and high school. I really loved just drawing. In my sketchbook, I used to draw, like comic book drawings and stuff like that of, like Spider-Man and like just different characters and all those kind of things. And
okay.
I remember my art teacher, once I got into, you get into like being a junior or senior in high school, you start to have to make life decisions about what you're going to do for a living. And I was in art class one day, and my art teacher's like, I started taking some drafting classes for architecture. Back
Yep.
then, being an artist, like doing stuff with art, back when I was in high school, there wasn't a whole ton of practical lines to get into like we have today for graphic artists, and everything's digital and there's so many things
Yep.
that you could do
Yep.
with
Yep.
it. Back then, it was kind of like, well, what are you going to do? Be a starting artist. So I decided to go into architecture. My art teacher says to me, "Why are you doing architecture? You're talented. You should be going into
Oh,
art." And I'm like, well, I
good
can't
job, art
support
teacher.
myself. What am I going to do? Right.
Mhm.
So I swung the other direction. I'm like, this is more practical. You still use your creativity, but it's a more grounded job. And so that's kind of what got me into architecture. But always loved, drawing, comic book art, animation, all that kind of stuff. Had I had my dream job, I would have loved to be like some kind of like animator or
Well, you know
kind of
what's
graphic artist like that. Yeah.
what's interesting is like you said, that was back then, and I have a feeling that we're roughly the
Mhm.
same age. I'm likely
Yeah, yeah.
older, but just in terms of like the landscape has changed so much for art and
Mhm.
everything.
Mhm.
There's such a demand
Yeah.
for creativity in the marketplace, if you will, but
Yeah.
also now if you're an artist, like there's so many venues for you to share your stuff, like social media,
Yeah.
which is kind of why I do this stuff. It's
Mhm.
like check out
That's
this
incredible.
yeah, this art by Casey Collar, who goes by the Reflector
Mhm.
Files. Some of our favorite characters, right, rendered by people is
Mhm.
just super exciting, and I'm totally
Yep.
showing you a detail. If I zoom out, you see sort of like a
Yep.
Cybertronian landscape, done real simply. I love it, right? You can see the hand
Mhm.
in this. So it's just
Yep.
it's kind of like, to me, it's always been action figures and drawing, or action figures and comic books have always kind of gone hand in hand. And there
Yeah.
was something about being able to draw your characters the way you want and put the combination of characters in a scene together that you want. It's no different than getting
Mhm.
two characters and
Yeah.
putting them together and playing with them.
Mhm.
So I dug this a lot. I love that sort of like take on his head and this sort of like the goggles. Was that in the cartoon? Because I don't remember
I
that.
don't remember that being in the cartoon, but that's kind of like a really, I mean, you have artistic license. It's like your world, right? So you
Yep.
can do whatever
Yep.
you want with that piece of art.
Yeah.
That's what's cool about it.
Very cool. So that's
Yeah.
one artist. If I could also share this, because
Mhm.
again, you can have all sorts of fun,
Anything you want.
right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it because you're taking the character. You've got Galactus, the world eater, who has his
Mhm.
herald to sort of scout the universe for his next.
There's Silver Surfer in the background. Is that
Yep.
he's like graffitiing his helmet? That's
He's saying
hilarious.
pig, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the surfer's tag, I guess.
That's
Uh,
hilarious.
but just a lot of creativity, right, in our
Mhm.
community. And I think there's now, because we have the internet, everyone can
Yeah.
see it and follow artists. You can even hit them up potentially for to buy some original artwork or prints in a way that we
Mhm.
didn't have access back in the day. So I love it, and I love to highlight it when I can. And
Mhm.
I also like that I feel like this artist is this is Deadly Mike. What's his full name? Mike Del Mundo.
Mhm.
Is highlighting kind of the relationship too between the other characters. So
That's
anyway,
really
when I was growing up in Southern California, one of my buddies in high school, who was my nerd buddy, was Marco, who had a different last name, but now he goes by Marco Finnegan. He's doing a series for December. It's DIS Ember because it's Disney related. So he's doing a bunch of, and I believe it's actually a collaboration of a bunch of artists on social media where they put out these prompts. And today for day 3 is snow. So he's got Christopher Robbins walking through the snow, carrying poo.
cute.
Yeah, and he has landed kind of on this stuff. He can do a bunch of different stuff, but he's kind of landed recently on this real graphic high contrast thing, and I love that red shirt.
Yeah, a Pooh's shirt that just sticks out with the contrast of the rest of the image. It's great. And then when he's just using the kind of the opposite, to highlight the trees that are just in black. That's great.
Yeah, he's doing some great stuff, working on a couple of different books. So anyways, that's Marco Finnegan. Check him out on Instagram. I think that is it for the art. Yeah, that's it for the art. Let's go ahead and move on to, this is actually become one of my favorite sections, because this is where I'm at with toys now. Like, I love what Mattel, Hasbro are putting out. I love what the indies are putting out. But I also love what this sort of like cottage industry of toy artists are putting out, right? Really like, so in Customs Corner, the customizing world, I've featured Brain Candy stuff a lot just because I'm just always blown away by the stuff that he's putting out. But this is a cool mashup of They Live, right? Yeah, the Obey kind of thing. Folks aren't familiar with the movie They Live, featuring Roddy Piper, which oddly is where the Shepard Fairey Obey thing comes from. So Brain Candy took a Motu figure. What was his name? Laser
Light
He-Man, and mashed him up with
that is a very rare figure, and it's incredible that he did that to make a custom out of. Maybe he was one that wasn't in great condition, so he was able to sacrifice that figure for,
or maybe
for making
this is all not actually based on that figure. Like, maybe he used a different, you know what I mean, like a starting point.
I mean, part of it, you can tell that like the sword, the laser light sword, looks like it's from there. I don't. Maybe he cast it on some other pieces, and sort of the backpack as well. So it's incredible that he was able to do that. I mean, it could have been just the standard He-Man book and some other parts that he put together. But in any case, using vintage parts of this nature it's incredible. He was able to piece that together with something that's so rare and hard to get.
Yeah, and as a person who used to do graphic design as well, I appreciate that he goes with the packaging as well. This whole thing is just really cool. Consume, go to sleep, conform is so perfect, both for the movie, for the 80s, frankly, Masters of the Universe, Mattel, ethos, consume, and we sure did. I love it. This is one that I just saw today, and I was like, I got to throw this in real quick. Again, Mythic Legions customizers are mad people. They are just super intense and super prolific. This is a dwarf, but done as a golem, kind of like you get very steampunky with all these gears. Some of these parts you see are, those are Legion's parts. Some of them are either cast or custom 3D printed that he's combining with these. This is Matt Stein, 13Z Customs. You can see the gears on that pauldron.
Incredible.
Yeah, just really cool stuff. And then it pushes the Mythic Legions thing even further. Like, sure, why aren't there sort of like these robotic golem in Mythos? Or it could just be, adjacent, but whatever. Like, I love it. Super creative people. That's 13Z Customs, Matt Stein. Awesome stuff. Moving on to someone we both know, Kenzo.
I love that Adora Kenzo. That is incredible. Like, just absolutely love that version of her. So capture the animated look of her so well.
Yes, he shared a in progress shot of it, and I was just like, "Whoa, this is great!" I actually said, "Hey, you should send that to Allison, who's here," and because I know it's so totally cool. Like her thing. I love it. There's all the they live comments in the chat. Awesome. And yeah, the drone was cool, but this Kenzo Adora is truly epic. Kenzo, like you can see the work in progress stuff.
Sorry.
Is that freaking you out as Toy Sorceress? You're like, no. Yeah. But it went. But it went to a good cause.
It went to a good cause. It absolutely did.
Look at that. So awesome. Good. And then of course the paint of it. So like all the thinking you have to do about like, okay, I need to achieve this type of sleeve. How would I do that? I could start with a sorcerer's figure, add, you know, probably some kind of, I don't know if it's epoxy sculpt. Epoxy. And then just sculpting it, painting it. The printed head is by, he credits the person here. And just the paint
but I mean,
job.
he painted it all, you know, once you get that 3D print, the paint applications on there are incredible. And then how he created the whole outfit and the sleeves. I mean, that's awesome. And you know, this gears us up for Pop that's coming to Motu Origins next year, as we kind of leaked to the community. That's awesome. That is just, and it's so cool to see like behind the scenes, like how he did it.
Yes, I always appreciate that from the customizer. And it's a reminder, like, one, the talent and the work, but also like, hey, let me share so you can do this too, you know? So I love that. Awesome, as Mega J put it. That's awesome. Mattel, take notes, please. Yeah, I would absolutely love to see
great job on that.
In Origins and Masterverse. That's what we need. And then the last one, sort of in this section, again, customizers are folks who are just like, we'll take existing 3D printed heads and they'll paint, and people will ask them to paint just because they're so damn good at it. So these Star Wars,
it's so hard, right? Like sometimes you see incredible custom work that you can buy, but they're unpainted. And like, I don't know about you, I'm not like the best to paint action figures. You know, I can draw stuff and things like that, but just like painting a physical sample or whatever with the detail and like getting the eyes right and all that kind of stuff, it's really hard. So I like admire the artists who can do this incredible work. And like, I mean, you could even see he looks like he has bags under his eyes and it's kind of red. You know, like he had a hard night.
Seriously,
the paintwork on that's incredible.
Yeah, and then like the eyes is what always trips me out. I've talked to different customizers about it, and they, you know, they've tried their best to kind of like ease my fears, because they're just sort of like, no, it's actually not hard, and they tell me the techniques and there's a lot of different ways to do it, but to me it just seems so daunting. But I haven't tried my hand yet, and I plan to very soon. Speaking of Kenzo's sending me some pieces. And so it's a good, like, you know, kick in the tail to like, hey, give it a shot. And if you want to see what these end up looking like. So these were done, by Syndicate Customs Creations. And he's they're just sort of sharing like these are, what do you call them? Commissions that he did for folks. So just really cool. Like, and I've done that too with my Masterverse, where I'm like, you know, I kind of would love to take these figures up a little bit with the head sculpts. And there are so many talented folks out there who do this, and you can buy them and just get the figure that you want on your shelf to represent like these classic characters, right?
Yeah.
I love this. This is like the more Clone Wars inspired thin mall head, and this is more of the movie head. Anyway, just talented artists all around. This is what is his Mads Mikkelsen's name?
I don't remember this.
You're good. I know you've had a long day. Anyway, Jin's father, something Urso, but yeah. And so what is this? Showing me how to do something and me being capable of copying the process does not guarantee the same. Absolutely. But I will say, as actually as a I do still have my art teaching credential, and I taught art for years. As I would always tell my students, at the end of the day, it's about practice and hours put in, right? And we all have different abilities, and we all have starting points. But I will tell you, it's all about time put in, work done. And I know that I can absolutely say with like, I'm not at all blowing smoke up people's, whatever, that like you put in the time, and you'd be amazed. I've seen artists, including family members, grow into some of the most amazing, talented artists. I showed you Marco's work earlier. Like, I know where that guy started. We would draw together, and I know where he's at now. And that's because of just time put in. So anyway,
do you still teach art classes, or are you?
I don't. I've switched over to social science, history, and I have for a while. But it's something that I keep in my back pocket because maybe some point I might want to go back and do that. But awesome. I've always wanted to do history. Anyway, let's wind it down. This is the part of the show that I call That's What's Up, because this is where we kind of spend a little more time focusing on some amazing talent. And today I wanted to take a look at a mostly Mythic Legions, but he also does a bunch of other stuff and mixes in parts from other figures. He's a customizer, Giovanni, who goes by, and I'm opening up all the pages in the background. How slick. And has also done some G.I. Joe stuff. But so this is Giovanni, aka Black Magic Customs. And so let's take a look. So this is Giovanni's page, and you can kind of take a quick look at just the man, folks are prolific. They just like work and work. And this is what I'm talking about. You just put in the work. I'm sure his first figure does not look like his latest.
That's incredible. Super
so many
talented people.
Like I could show all of
I could never do anything like that.
And I'm going to move through them quickly just because of time, that I want you to go, folks, please go check out this Instagram. But man, and I especially appreciate it as a person who's grown up with figures and always wanted to see more diversity in their figures, like Black Magic. Like if I can get my skills done, I would definitely represent my people a little bit more, because there aren't a whole lot of Pinoys and action figures. But I love that he's just like, yo, let's do some Black excellence in plastic and give us some characters and warriors to fill out to fill out the fantasy world. Just damn, they just look so good. And it's a different time now because of things like Mythic Legions and the sort of cottage industry of customizers and 3D printers and resin pieces people pump out. Incredible. You can do these things. Look at this. Even mixing in soft good lace here, and just he mixes in a lot of like
super talented,
mixing in a lot of Egyptian inspired stuff, because there's a lot of those pieces around, but really like showing us like, hey, why not in Mythos we get more like Egyptian inspired, ancient Egypt inspired kind of warriors and priestesses and sorcerers and all that in our high fantasy. Fantastic. And just like there's no end to it. Yeah, man.
Great.
This is like, you and I, we like Mo too, so we could go for a good buff, half naked body every
plastic. Right? Exactly. I mean, that's really cool.
I couldn't even figure out where this came from, because it's not a Mythic Legions thing. There's a diaphragm cut here that isn't in Mythic Legions, and this articulation pieces. But I don't know if you ever played an old video game called Karnov that I was really into, but this totally reminded me of him. Bald dude that blow fire. These are like cool. I don't know. It's just like this stuff really captures my imagination as much as
I just got this image of like bald bull from
right.
Punch Out, like his head, right?
Exactly. Absolutely, man. Brian Brink has met Giovanni. Giovanni's great, really nice too. Got to meet him at Legions Con. His cyberpunk stuff was especially incredible. Yeah, definitely check this out. Yes, of course, Karnov. Sorry, I had the song in my head for the longest time. Because really, if you ever play that game, it's going to jump in your head because it's the only song throughout the entire game. Anyways, Karnov, or some, again, orcs, right? But in this cool sculpt. A lot of this is stuff that, these are all pieces that you can buy. This is from Planetary Dog. They produce the head. He paints them, puts them on Legion's body, adds additional paint for this body.
Really
There's
cool.
sort of body art on these things. Just incredible. I'm getting a different head sculpt. Same head sculpt. You pull that thing up like a visor, and you get this cool orc face.
That's so cool.
Right. So if you think about like Mark Taylor and them back in the day creating figures, and like how hard that was to like work with clay and then eventually get them produced. Now it's like people sculpt something. Not that it's easy. I don't mean to imply that, but it's much quicker and easier now, and like easy for folks in their homes and their garages to make it happen and paint.
Yeah.
I was a sucker for body art. I think most of what I would probably do as a customizer is like do cool like body paint on a lot of my figures. Just think it's cool looking. Like, imagine like He-Man with some body art.
Yeah.
Got a Bob Marley in Mythos. Man, that'd be so great.
That's great.
How long shall they kill our prophets? That's what he's saying. Till we stand. Such great stuff. Again, demons, right? Basically based on one of the main characters from the line with a head from another figure, and just created this cool thing. If you see the original Horseman figures, they're painted. They're gorgeous. But this is like going even further with the level of paint that can be done, and sculpting into the body as this torso has, sort of built-in custom torso. It looks like those are carved out, so you see the muscles underneath. Yeah. Anyway, it's amazing, like where we're at now as a toy community, right?
Yeah.
Man, this is everything. Yeah. That's awesome. So good. Again, just a couple more things. We've got Horus. We've got this Pharaoh. There's an unmasked one as well. We've got Anubis. Look at that.
That's so cool.
Fantastic stuff. I know I'm kind of sharing a lot here, but really good. Just amazing stuff. And, some Joe stuff for you. He doesn't really have names for them, but I was like thinking these are like these cool Cobra enforcers. This is like, when Raptor and Crystal Ball didn't quite get the job done. You're bringing these.
It's like G.I. Joe and, Star Wars kind of meet like a.
Yeah. I mean, which they did with Iron Grenadiers, right? Eventually they kind of did get there. Anyway, I guess that was the last one I had. So,
fantastic.
All right. Anyway, that's what's up. Let's go and close off with this person. I don't know if you're familiar with a person named Toy Sorceress, super talented in the community in her own right. So talk to us about what you've got going on, and maybe like a little bit for the folks who aren't familiar, how you ended up getting involved with ToyHabits in particular.
It's a funny story. So I was watching ToyHabits on YouTube in the early days when they first started with Michael and his previous partner. And there was an episode where Michael mentioned something. I don't know if it was Michael or Larry mentioned something about their Hero Classics figure. And I had just bought one on eBay. It was closed in its package. I opened them up because Hero's one of my favorite characters. And I have the Super 7 version of him, but the Super 7 version comes with, which he's sitting right behind me. He's got this little green staff. That's like the color of his gem. Not having collected too much of the classic figures at the time, this was almost 2 years ago, didn't realize that the classics version of Hero came with different color gems in the box. There was a green, a purple, and a red one, and you couldn't see what it was. It was like blind package because this little staff was closed. And when I opened it up, I think I got a red gem on my Hero, and I'm like, it's supposed to be green. This is like his classic color. Why do I have a red one? So for
It's
weeks, I
wrong.
was like looking on eBay to see if I can get the right color staff, and I couldn't find one. So it happened to be, I was watching this episode of Toy Habits, and I don't know why either Michael or Larry mentioned that they had like multiple different versions of Hero and Classics, and they had all these different colors, and they had extra green ones, and I was like, let me just, put a comment on the episode and just see if maybe one of them would want to trade. It was Larry who said he was looking for a red one and he had like 3 greens. I was like, oh my God, maybe Larry will trade with me. I'm like, he doesn't even know who the heck I am, but maybe he'll trade with me. So I put a comment in. Larry didn't answer, of course, because he never answered comments. And Michael responded back. And Michael's like, I'll absolutely trade with you. I'm like, wow, Michael's really nice. I didn't know him at the time. So
awesome.
he like sent me his email address and we kind of traded information, and then I mailed it to him. And as a thanks, I included some extra cute little Motu stuff in there for him just to say thank you, because it was really nice. Like, I'm just a viewer and he's like reaching out and he made this trade. So we started chatting after that, and it turned out I started getting a little bit of kind of news like information. I started feeding them some stories and kind of doing some recon for Michael and Larry when I would go to retail stores and Target and kind of finding out like ship dates and this kind of stuff. And so I started feeding them news for their YouTube channel. And this went on for a few
You were
months,
one of the sources.
Yeah, I mean, I had my ways. So Michael and I developed a friendship. We hadn't ever met in person, but we developed a friendship, and I was helping them out just because I love toys and I love being part of the community. And then Michael asked me one day, hey, I've got this website I'm trying to get started with, and Larry just has no interest in working on it with me because he says it's too much work. Just between all of us, right? Larry didn't want to do a lot, so.
Just between
he's
all
like,
of
would
us.
you be interested in working on the site with me? And I never did a website before in my life. Sure. I knew I did graphic arts. I knew how to do Photoshop and that kind of stuff with my architectural background, but I knew nothing about putting a website together. And so Michael's like, don't worry, it's easy. I'll show you. And so we started. And so we launched into ToyHabits.com. And together, as an amazing partnership, we've come up with all these incredible ideas on how to make the site amazing. And what happened over a little period of time, I had kind of this vision of like, hey, why don't we do a shop page where you can find vintage toys and maybe some other stuff? Because what ended up happening was we kept getting either leaks or early information on links to like toys that were up for pre-order, and we would just embed them in our articles, but we didn't have a place to house it or in an organized fashion. So we were always kind of going back to articles to figure out like, what things were. And I'm like, well, what if we do some awesome shop pages for those? And so to make it easy for the collectors to find these toys, because, you might want to pre-order a classified figure or a Motu Origins figure or a Turtles figure, and one store may not have it in the stock, or like one store might be cheaper. I'm like, what if we have multiple links for each one and to make it easy and fun to shop for them, organize the different waves and all the characters and all the stuff so that you could go in there and easily fill out your collection. And then while we're at it, why don't we do, vintage figures as well? Because, like finding stuff on eBay is kind of like a pain. So Michael had this incredible way to filter stuff out. And then, so we did an amazing like G.I. Joe shop page of like waves 1 through 10 of the vintage figures, which was an incredible undertaking. And I said, I want to do the whole wave. So we did all the figures and all the vehicles. So if you go into that O-Ring shop page on the top, you can find the first 10 years of G.I. Joe O-Rings, every single wave in there. And Michael, incredibly enough, had this huge collection of G.I. Joe figures. And he said, how are we going to put this together? So most of the figures, like 90% of the figures, are between me and Michael's collection, the photographs. If you scroll down, you'll see them in there. And he actually shipped me his entire collection of G.I. Joe O-Rings in the mail, Brick, which was, I was like, are you nuts? He did, because I was doing
How many figures are we talking?
It was a couple hundred. It was a lot. It was a big box. And I'm like, are you sure you want to do this? And I don't know why he had all the faith in the world of the post office.
Not just in you, but in the post office. Like,
the
that's
post
what
office. That's why. And it was only coming from Northern California to Southern California. And I crossed my fingers. I said, I hope they get here okay. So I took my figures, but he has a much bigger O-ring collection than I do. We photographed the heck out of all of them. The first 10 waves are all in there. They're in order. They're organized. So this makes it fun, you know. And when you click on the link where it says shop, it takes you to a curated eBay shop
I need to
page.
get
So you
toll
find
booth.
all your stuff. So you see that search bar up there? It's very specific.
Oh yeah, it's all yep.
And it cleans up, it subtracts out all this other garbage that you usually find when you search on eBay. So it makes it easy to go shopping for your toys. But the fun part of this was the vehicles and play sets, Brick. So if you go back to our shop page and you scroll down to the bottom, I did a lot of research to find images of all of the vehicles and play sets. And I had to actually, some of them were photographs of the box sitting in somebody's, it's at the bottom of any of the shop pages. A box sitting on somebody's living room floor, and if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see it'll load up
all the way at the bottom.
Yeah, down there, any of those.
Oh yeah,
all of these. So I actually went and restored all of the photographs, cleaned them up, you know, straightened them in Photoshop, recreated pieces of it where parts of it were missing with tags or rips in the box and stuff like that, so that our intent was not only to make it fun, so some of these box packaging was like, you know, there was labels on it or a piece ripped off or it was crooked. Like I used all my photoshopping magic to make the best images we could.
That's amazing.
Because we didn't have closed boxes of all the stuff. We had only a few things. So we wanted a resource like with this Joe shop in particular, where it's kind of like also a history of the line. And then you can find everything that was made for G.I. Joe, you know, the first 10 waves back in the 80s, and just make it fun to shop, and then also see what the whole wave entailed. And you can kind of see how the line changed throughout the years, and you get into sort of like, you know, the Battle Force 2000, the Neon Joes. And it was a lot of fun. It was many months of putting these shop pages together, but and as our love for toys grow, we've been increasing the lines that we cover on the site. And, you know, my love for toy photography, I'm nowhere near the incredible photographer that all these other people do. I just do it like for fun, and I have fun posing the figures. I can't compete with the incredible stuff you're showing.
No, it's not about competing. No, it's about, you
know,
again,
you know what I mean? Like these people are super talented.
But I want to let folks know,
like what I love about all this as well. And you know, Michael does an awesome job. And so all of this is just me and him. We're the only two people working on the site. We both have full-time jobs, but we do this for our love of toys, our love of being part of the community, and just helping like everybody have a better time at collecting. Because like when we started, I know it was so frustrating to people.
What year did this launch again?
For this stuff. We launched in, I want to say, February of 2022. So it's going to be 2 years in February that we launched the website, and there's a wealth of knowledge on there. And if you scroll to the top of the website, Brick, a really cool resource on it is there's this tiny little magnifying glass right over the O of Toy Habits. And if you click any, you know, toy subject that we cover on there and want to find out, say General Hawk, you know, it'll bring up all of the, you know,
if I type in
that we talked about. Yeah, just type it in right there.
Oh,
and there's
very
all the articles
cool.
we had that include General Hawk. You can find anything on the site because now there's like a plethora of information. So that little magnifying glass is a super great resource just to find things.
It's actually
like
really precise here.
No, it's
I can't help myself.
Oh no, you can just have fun on there all day long.
That's amazing. Okay, so important point here and question, since we have you, is there a Vintage Princess of Power page for the?
There is not yet a Vintage Princess of Power page because I have an extremely small collection of pop figures.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find them in good condition to be able to create the photography for them. We did do, for example, a Thundercats vintage page because I've got like a lot of vintage figures, and now so does Michael. So we photographed most of the ones we own, and then had to fill in a few of the super rare ones with some other outsourced images. But you know, we're constantly growing the line. Michael put together an entire Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle shop page one weekend when he was just, bored and had nothing else to do. And we're like, okay, now we're covering all the stuff for Ninja Turtles. And, I helped dive in to that realm with him. And now he's starting to collect it, which was like kind of cool. I think we both rub off on each other with stuff. So it's an ever changing and ever growing website. And I think, just increasing the stuff that we cover, it's a lot of fun. I mean, I even cover, Super Friends because I love superpowers. I even have like Amigo shop page because I personally am a huge fan of Amigo figures. So I'm like, I want to create a Amigo page because I think this is cool and people are buying them, and so I want to make it easy for them to shop for them. Plus, I do have to disclose this. We do have affiliate links on there for certain stuff, so that does help. Fund a little
Pay
bit of the
for this
website
stuff.
for us.
Absolutely. It's a
Because
lot of work.
this costs us a lot of money to be able to manage, to maintain the site and pay for, site hosting fees and all that kind of stuff. So we do have to do that to keep the site running. So if you do want to shop for stuff and you buy it from the links on our site, it does help us out and we appreciate that. But again, we want to make it easy for you guys to shop for this stuff.
It's
So
super
that's why we
robust.
maintain these shop pages.
I'm glad you came and kind of pointed out this whole feature, and just like it's super robust, and sometimes it's hard to find things, but this is really cool.
Because now, I mean, there's little subcategories at the top for each of our main things we cover, but we've got so many articles in there now that you don't want to thumb through 30 pages of stuff. So this way you can just go directly to post on something cool you want to look at.
And you're tagging everything really well because things are definitely coming up.
We've dialed in really well, and I want to thank Michael and his wife, which is an incredible website, guru in her own right. Give a big shout out to her for helping me learn all the ins and outs of putting together a website. It's not just putting these pages together, but there's a lot of data that goes into how things are searched through Google or search engines and how to optimize that to help people find our stuff when they just go into Google, and then help them bring it up into here. That goes down to naming photo files, which makes it a lot more work, optimizing the size of those files. And there's all these different fields of stuff that you need to know. This is how the sausage is made, how a website gets put together, certain search words, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into each of these articles to make sure that they're easily available and findable for people out there.
Two things. This is wild. It's an amazing amount of work for two people to do, or it sounds like 2+, because it sounds like Michael's wife kind of helped out a little bit.
She's given us hints on
on like how to do this stuff,
but she doesn't work on the website.
Fun fact.
She's been a big influence in teaching us how to hone our skills.
So fun fact, when Michael and I got together last time, we were reading, just kind of talking about our past. There's a strong chance that his wife and I have crossed paths. I, in a former life, was a graphic designer, web designer, and I was art directing on a project developing the some interactive pieces for the Sega Dreamcast launch, which was like one of her big clients at the ad agency. So we interface with their contacts, and it had to have been, because he's just like, there's no other, that would have been her if you worked with that. Anyways, she would have been one of the main people that we interfaced with. So
that's incredible.
Small world. San Francisco's not that big, but
it's funny because now that you bring that up, my father-in-law, he's remarried, so my husband's father, right? He's in his second marriage, but his Michael's parents and my father-in-law and his wife are best friends. For 20 years. They've been best friends for 20 years. And I just met Michael a little over, like, almost 2 years ago. How weird is that, Brick?
Small world. That is wild. Are they all? I guess they're all from California, or
yeah. Amazing. He lives farther, like, east right now. It's in California, but so we don't get to see him very often. We didn't know, because that's his circle of social friends or whatever. And apparently they've been best friends for 20 years, and we had no idea.
That's awesome. Well, this was very cool. Thank you so much for hanging out today and kind of like walking through the best news. Again, if you guys aren't familiar, please go check out toyhabits.com. Clearly, Toy Sorceress and Michael are putting a ton of work into this, and like ultimately it's a massive resource for our community, right? Even just for information. I'm looking at this stuff, I was like, man, it's robust. Like I was clicking through like that monkey, and then like it's not just the pictures, it's comparison between figures with vintage, and that's a lot of work. And of course there's Toy Habits on YouTube that you should subscribe to. And I mean, if you're, there's no way you're not subscribed to them already. Our channel here is so tiny compared to theirs. And Toy Sorceress on Instagram, simply Toy Sorceress, one word, and a lot of it is geared to the content that you're working on.
Yeah, so, once in a while I'll throw my that was just me trying to get rid of some Lego sets. But if you scroll down, sometimes I get inspired and just throw my toy photography down in there.
Yeah.
And, we've just been super busy with the website, so that's what you see mostly.
Between moving, your actual job, this, I don't know how you get it all done, but respect, because it is absolutely a lot. Anyway,
I appreciate it. That's why my toy room is not done yet.
Yeah.
Well, boxes.
Well, thank you so much for hanging out today. I really appreciate that you made time for this. I know you literally were doing back-to-back coming in from what you all were doing at Toy Habits. Again, folks, you can definitely use the link that's down there, the QR code and all that, to follow the stuff that we've been talking about. Sorceress, what's going on? What's next? We've talked a lot about the channel, but like, is there anything we should look out for?
Well, like I said, look out this week for some TMNT crossover news.
Okay. And then, and when the podcast is every weekend, but it's kind of changed.
We alternate depending on our lives and our schedule. So, it's either Saturday or Sunday. And then, the time is usually in the afternoon, 3 or 4 o'clock. We didn't want to stick to a regimented schedule every weekend because we're real people. We have lives, we have family that we have to hang out with. And so we've been trying
to hang out with, she says.
Yes. Yeah. And so, and then we have these special private live streams and hangouts with our crew as well that we do. So we'll have one next weekend for our Toy Habits crew members, which we'll let you know about. We were supposed to do it this weekend, so my apologies, but we're moving it to next weekend because we had this extra stream plugged in with you, Brick. So that's been awesome.
Oh man, I got in the way. Your patrons are like,
no, you're good, because actually I was like super tired, so I was like, I spent all day yesterday putting up the holiday decorations because I'm hosting my family next weekend for Hanukkah. So it's been a busy weekend to say the least. So actually, it's been a little bit of a break just hanging out with you. But I want to thank you very much for having me on your show. You're doing incredible work. We can't wait till we get to hang out someday together in person. And all of you out there, make sure to subscribe to Brick's channel. If you're watching right now and you're not subscribed, I don't know what's wrong with you, because you got to subscribe. Brick's amazing. And I did plug this for you before coming on.
And thank you for that.
Hopefully I see a lot of people from our crew in the chat. So hi to everybody and enjoy your Sunday. And thanks again for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, folks, for checking out the Brick Something News. You can check out the channel and all that other stuff. Definitely check out Toy Habits. Like they said, they got the Patreon. It's robust if you want to hang out with them regularly. And hopefully I won't get in the way next time. Consider joining there.
I was more than happy to hang out with you.
Allison's mad at me. All right, folks. Have a great week.
Okay, also, we'll hang out next weekend.
Yeah. All right, folks. Thank you. Happy Hanukkah. Happy holiday season. All of that stuff. We will see you next week, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. For Brick Something New. Goodbye, folks. Woohoo! Thank you.